Hello and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. Thanks everybody for stopping by today, and I hope you are ready to talk about central bank digital currencies, aka CBDCs, because the year 2023 is going to be the year of CBDCs. We are going to see launches for central bank digital currencies across the globe, and it's going to be really interesting to see them go head to head with, of course, the big daddy Bitcoin and the even bigger daddy cash money in your pocket. Even as we see in the United States, the idea of cash money becoming illegal, it's going to get even more interesting. Today, we're also going to be talking about the European Union discussing zero knowledge proofs for digital IDs. Yes, this is going to be blockchain for your digital ID, a complete invasion of your privacy, and that is the way it rolls. On top of that, we're going to be talking about some more mining news. CleanSpark boosts computing power by 37% with thousands of new Bitmain rigs. Yes, CleanSpark is building in the bear market, and you should pay attention as a miner, because if you copy the big boys that are successful right now in the bear market, you have a better chance of surviving yourself. We have new miner releases from Team Red Miner. We also have a new miner release from Team Black Miner. We have a new update from Hive OS and a new release of the Ergo protocol, reference client 5.0.7. Ironfish is having a meme competition that you can enter in for some additional free swag from Ironfish. I'd love some Ironfish swag. And get your money off Exhibitron or Exbitron. Exbitron, you know, that exchange, that small exchange. Get it off before the 22nd of February. We'll be talking about why. We also have a new listing for Novo Chain and some development updates from Firo nonetheless. Then we'll be taking a look at mining profitability for the week, as well as taking a look at how the hash rates are doing. Before we get started, I wanted to offer a live stream apology to Techman YouTube, or YT. Used to be named YouTube Watcher, used to be a pretty, I guess, regular viewer of my channel. And I guess a while back, I made some comments during a live stream in response to some of his chats that were offensive. I want to make a public apology for that and leave it at that. So Techman, YouTube Watcher, aka, I apologize. I'm sorry for that. And I should have been more empathetic towards how that could have made you feel. Let's get into all of that and more right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is CoinLedger. CoinLedger understands that crypto tax reporting can be difficult and is here to help. CoinLedger integrates with popular crypto applications and exchanges like Coinbase and MetaMask. Seamlessly import your CoinLedger tax reports into TurboTax and feel at ease. For a limited time, check the description on this video for a chance to win a free CoinLedger tax report. Get started for free today at coinledger.io by following the links in the description. Use promo code SONOFATECH for 10% off. All right, hopping right into the first topic. And yes, we're a little zoomed in. There's some craziness going on here, and it is what it is. Let's talk about Russia, who is now going to roll out a CBDC pilot with real consumers in April. And just us talking about Russia means that this video will inevitably get completely crushed by the algorithm, but that's okay, because the majority of our viewers are coming from outside sources these days anyways. And on top of that, a majority of our viewers are coming from, or views are coming from, subscribers like yourself to the YouTube channel. So if you aren't subscribed yet and you want to be sure that you're catching all of my content, be subscribed, because that is the only way that you're going to catch this content. Or follow me on Twitter at SonOfATech, where you can see some absolutely awesome posting over there. Let's go ahead and pop right into it, though. Hopping into it. Russia's central bank is preparing to launch the first consumer pilot for the digital ruble in collaboration with 13 local banks. I had a brain fart there. I can't even remember how to say ruble. The Bank of Russia is preparing to roll out the first consumer pilot for the nation's central bank digital currency, CBDC, on April 1st, 2023. Now, is Putin just playing us with this April Fool's joke? I don't know. April 1st, or is just the world at large playing us a dirty trick? I've been saying this for quite some time. It appears that the mass collective is to a certain extent manifesting everything that's been happening in reality lately, and we need to be more careful of where we put our thoughts and focus because it's insane. You know, we watch a TV show like The Simpsons and we end up with Donald Trump as president, right? And then we end up in this very odd digital world of currency battles that is going on, and I'm ecstatic to live through it for sure. But to a certain extent, it is getting a little bit dystopian, I'm not going to lie. Russia's central bank is set to soon debut the first real-world digital ruble transactions involving 13 local banks and several merchants. First Deputy Governor Olga, I cannot pronounce that name, said, by the way, I don't know why I'm derping so hard, but we're going to do this real quick. Just give me a second. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time here.
Ruble.
I am saying it right. Okay, it is ruble. We got it. It's fine. Okay. The official noted that the upcoming CBDC pilot will involve real operations and real consumers in Russia, but will be limited to a certain number of transactions and customers, the local news agency TASS reported. Quote, we plan to launch the digital ruble project on April 1st with transactions involving individual transfers as well as payments in trade and service enterprises. Skoro Bogatova. No way I'm going to get that one. We're going to call her Skoro. Stated at the Ural Forum Cybersecurity in Finance. She added that the banks participating in the pilot have technically confirmed their readiness to start testing the digital ruble. The deputy governor clarified that general consumers would not be able to participate in the pilot in the first stage, as the banks will enter the pilot with chosen customers. Following the first pilot stage, the Bank of Russia plans to determine how to scale the digital ruble further, Skoro stated. This is Bank of Russia's first deputy governor, Skoro, right here. That's got like some hefty Trump nomination vibes going on right there, if you know what I'm saying. It's fine. Don't worry about it. The latest announcement by Skoro follows the roadmap for the digital ruble rollout that the central bank officially introduced in June of 2022. Initially scheduled for 2024, the consumer CBDC pilot was moved to an earlier date as the Russian central bank was looking for an alternative to the SWIFT payment system amid Western economic sanctions against Russia. The news comes amid some Russian officials claiming that the Bank of Russia is considering a potential gold-backed token targeting cross-border transactions. Bank of Russia's first deputy governor, Vladimir Chistyukin, believes that such a golden token will help Russia create a new attractive investment product and build a demanded payment method for or in international settlement. And obviously, the big thing that's going to come to play here, in my humble opinion, with a lot of these central bank digital currencies is how they're backed, right? Because the power is going to come under that. Remember a while back we had the Pero, and that Pero was backed by oil, and that was like the first cryptocurrency ever to be banned for trading in the United States. Like absolute banned, go to prison for holding it type thing. And that is frankly because of the power of oil that directly attacks essentially the energy exportation in the United States. And if we are talking about how these different countries are going to roll out their CBDCs and where they find their value, this is really where it's at. There's different strategies, though. A majority of the strategies that are going to be implemented in basically consumer heavy countries, right, or consumer influenced countries is going to be modern monetary theory, which we talked a little bit about in last week's podcast. And the reason for that is because these countries that are consumer based are primarily built on stimulating the economy. So there'll be a lot more along the lines, in my humble opinion, of something that would be considered basically a pyramid scheme, or at least at the very least a security by the definitions of the SEC in the United States, as they will implement some sort of burn mechanism with going in and going out, as well as an expiration date, as we are seeing in China, and is soon to be adopted as well in the proposals in the UK. So when we're talking about this, it's important to understand that it looks like you're going to have basically two different paths for CBDCs that are going to be taking place. One's going to be like resource-backed central bank digital currencies, right? You got Russia proposing gold. You got, I believe it was Venezuela. It's been a while. Venezuela with the Pero backed by oil that's in the ground. And then, of course, you have the kind of economic-based ones, the manipulation of already powerfully influenced consumer-based economies, pushing this idea of essentially a vapid dollar, right? Something that doesn't have any actual backing, but has artificial scarcity due to the fact that your paycheck will be put on an expiration date, and you will be forced to spend that paycheck immediately, thereby, of course, adhering to modern monetary policy and accelerating the value of the currency through that specific form. So I want you guys to understand the differences between what's going to be happening with these and why it's important, right? We could say, for example, like a lot would be copying what Bitcoin does with its artificial scarcity, except here's the difference, right? A lot of people miss this. The reason why Bitcoin has a value that is not purely based off of artificial scarcity, but scarcity in general, is it is backed inherently by energy, right? The cost to mint a Bitcoin means that you have a backing of the value of the Bitcoin in actual energy itself. And that is what drives the price of Bitcoin up. This is why when you get into arguments between proof of work people and proof of stake people, you end up in a position where the proof of work people will argue against the value of proof of stake and obviously point to this factor of it not actually having any backing. This is also why in the United States, when you see the SEC kind of regulating or start to regulate, it puts Bitcoin in the kind of side of commodities, while anything that's proof of stake, it starts putting in securities. And this is why you have that specific distinction. Once again, I do want to address the issue with Ethereum and people kind of, because miners obviously have some clarification, right? Miners have a certain amount of disdain for Ethereum. They want Ethereum to go back to proof of work so that their profitability can come back. And that sounds all fine and dandy, right? The biggest question I've been getting lately is, will or could Ethereum move back to proof of work? Will is probably no. Could, yes. Why wouldn't they? At this point, it really wouldn't matter either way. Potato, potato, right? Here's why. Ethereum basically runs the entire DeFi system. I don't care what your perception of DeFi is or what you think might be taking over in the DeFi space in the future. It's irrelevant if we look at the current market, which is that Ethereum runs all of DeFi. That is end of story. And the problem is that DeFi runs off of a system that creates tokens on top of the Ethereum blockchain. A majority of those tokens are by nature proof of stake. And because those tokens are by nature considered proof of stake that are on top of Ethereum, avoiding regulation by moving the main chain back to proof of work is not possible, right? So is there any benefit? No, other than the public perception. But if we're being completely frank, we know that Ethereum doesn't really care about that public perception unless it's towards woke ideals like environmentalism. And we could get into a whole argument of, proof of stake versus proof of work and the effects and impacts it has on, of course, the environment. And I would point to the fact that Ethereum runs a majority of its nodes on large, big data centers like Amazon AWS services that are the biggest offenders to the environment, the biggest wasters of energy, because for every server, they have 2 more servers that are ready to spin up, just sitting there idle, wasting energy the entire time. While on the proof of work side, if you have a machine that's not running, you are penalized. You waste more energy in proof of stake than you do in proof of work. While you may use more energy in proof of work at the current status without, of course, the incentive to move towards more energy efficiency, the fact of the matter is wasted energy, definitely that trophy goes to proof of stake. Those are my arguments, and the primary arguments that if we got into proof of stake, proof of work, I would bring up in conversation with anybody that you are getting into that argument with. So that aside, though, we have more CBDCs coming down the pipeline, and this one is in Japan, right? So the Bank of Japan to launch its CBDC pilot before May. So you got April, then you got May. You got April with Russia, you got May with Japan. Let's see what this one's about. And it's going to be finishing its proof of concept testing, and that began in 2021. Japan, a nation where foreign stable coins like Tether are prohibited, plans to begin its central bank digital currency pilot in April of 2023. Let's talk about stablecoins and their importance. And here is the importance, of course, in my humble opinion, of Ethereum, right? Stablecoins inherently are empowered by Ethereum. So let's give Ethereum some kudos here for basically giving us stablecoins, whether you like it or not. And we could talk about, okay, sure, Binance Smart Chain, their only stablecoin kind of failed. All right. BUSD is going down right now. We're aware of that. The importance of stablecoins in struggling economies is paramount to the entire debate surrounding cryptocurrency and tokens specifically on top of other blockchains that represent other assets. A stablecoin is basically a coin that is based on a specific currency or fiat currency like the US dollar in most cases that maintains a pegged value to that specific token. And that is really important when we're talking about securing your financial freedom for the future, especially if you're in a country where your current currency or your available currency, in this case the yen in Japan, is declining in price. Why is this? Well, for the most part, the only way you can actually transfer your current fiat currency, like the yen, into a more stable fiat currency like the US dollar is through large financial institutions. To have this privilege, you typically have to be wealthy, right? And that means that a majority of the population ends up in a position where they're completely oppressed and suppressed by their economy. They're not able to work themselves out into a better position. They have no options to save, because what's the point in saving if the currency is collapsing? And what has happened is that people now have access to this option through decentralized finance. And like I said before, a majority of that is on Ethereum. So that is very relevant. The most recent examples were Argentina and Venezuela. Argentina kind of being, I think, the poster child for this this cycle, and Venezuela being the previous cycle. Now, Venezuela used Digibyte because we didn't really have stable coins at that time. This is like 2016 through 2018 cycle, right? The bull run was 2016 through 2018. And when they were doing this, they found a currency, a digital currency that had some value, that was propped up and still at least more stable than their economy. So even if stable coins go away or they're disallowed, what you will end up seeing is people starting to move into things like Bitcoin or Digibyte or Litecoin or Dogecoin. Doesn't really matter. Cryptocurrency in general, right? Decentralized cryptocurrency is the specific thing that matters here, and not a centralized bank, CBDC. So when we get into this topic, you have to understand that the reason why Japan wants to ban stablecoins is because it allows their population to opt out of their current monetary system and monetary policy and kind of opt into a more stable option like the US dollar. And this gives the individuals more power at the lower income levels. And you really can't have that if you're trying to get the economy based off of your own currency spinning back up. This is why they make it illegal. It gets even crazier though, because this is an international scheme that's been going on. As we can see with the example in Argentina, where in Argentina, when the same thing started happening and the Argentine dollar started to collapse, the rich started going into the international banks and trading for US dollar, right? The poor didn't have access to that, or even the middle class. So the poor and the middle class in this particular situation in Argentina started utilizing DeFi to purchase stablecoins, USDT, for example, and that sort of thing on the Ethereum blockchain. And that allowed them to have some sort of sustained savings that was helping them keep their livelihood up. The problem is right after that, what we saw was a proposal by the UN to outlaw stablecoins, especially in third world countries. Now, on the face of that, they say that that needs to be done because they can't have, third world countries having, basically, well, the argument, I got to Google it again because the argument's so ridiculous. It's so clear to see through. The real reason why the UN doesn't want third world countries or countries that are in poverty or countries that are on the verge of collapse accessing any sort of system that allows them to stabilize their own finances is because they literally operate off of collapsing countries intentionally and rebuilding them back up. Where can we see this case in point now? Well, we can see this case in point now in the Ukraine, right? Where we already see large, massive corporations like BlackRock starting economic recovery strategies for the Ukraine. Well, why would they do that? Because it's profitable to do so. Okay? So when we look at anything that has to do with decentralized cryptocurrency, it's important to note those differences so you understand where the power struggle is really happening here. And it's extremely important when we start talking about Japan. Why? Well, Japan went on kind of this crusade of decreasing the surplus population, as I like to call it. And it's this kind of, they did it in a different way, right? China did it with the one-child policy for quite some time, and now we see the housing collapse issues in China kind of coming to a head. In Japan, they did it really with social pressure, and with that social pressure, they were able to reduce the amount of new people coming into the generation. What they've spurred on in relation to that is a housing crisis. So now there's too many available apartments, that pricing on it's too high and people can't afford it. Yet at the same time, you just have a bunch of abandoned housing infrastructure that needs to be filled up. And if people are able to protect their currency, then they're able to afford these places to live in for a longer period of time, which doesn't allow them to spur the economy with things like construction, etc. So really read between the lines here and start paying attention to why cryptocurrency matters, because this matters a lot. The pilot test will continue to work on technical feasibility of the digital yen and extend the experiment to modeling a CBDC ecosystem with the participation of private companies. As the official specifics, no actual retail transactions will be made during the pilot, only simulated ones. Yoshita's, I can't do this, speech, I can't pronounce that. I'll have to Google it later. Focuses on the design of the future CBDC and the need to consult with the private sector on alternative data models, architectures for offline payments, and other vital elements of the system. For this kind of consultation, the CBDC Forum will be created. The news about the CBDC pilot was highly anticipated, as local media reported the BOJ's intention back in November of 2022. According to the reports, at least 3 Japanese megabanks and regional banks will collaborate with the BOJ. Meanwhile, Japanese authorities also consider lifting the ban on foreign stablecoins, which came into law in 2022. According to the Financial Services Agency of Japan, the amendment should be passed by June of 2023. While they won't let any foreign stablecoin into the market automatically, the green light will be shown to those coins which successfully pass individual checks. Now, why would they start to allow stablecoins, right? Because we just had this whole thing of like why you don't want stablecoins. Well, in general, if they're going to allow it specifically for economies that they're participating within, right? We can put them in a position where they can spur on or they can lengthen the current status quo. And I think they're coming to the realization of that, right? Like we were talking about, if you have that ability to purchase stablecoins in general, it's going to give you the ability in the future to lengthen out your ability to afford goods and services and housing, which is really the big thing, specifically in Japan right now, as we see the housing crisis kind of come to fruition over there because of the decreased population. Now, oh man, European Union discusses using zero knowledge proofs for digital IDs. You want an episode of the Black Mirror? You don't need to go watch one. Okay? We got it right here in real life. It's about to happen. The proposition here is to use zero knowledge proofs, and it was proposed by the EU committee and may become part of the updated legislation. The European Union is famous for its ambivalent relationship with privacy. On the one hand, it was the first place in the world to apply strict data protection regulations. On the other hand, its central bank digital currency project lacks the anonymity standards of private cryptocurrencies. Nevertheless, last week, EU lawmakers made a vital step to embrace privacy in the space of citizens' digital identities. Let's read between the lines here. Privacy from other individuals, not privacy from the government, right? And this is really key to understand here. On February 9th, the Industry, Research, and Energy Committee included the standard of zero knowledge proofs in its amendments to the European Digital Identity Framework. The last update was voted in by 55 votes to 8 in the committee. The draft will now proceed to the trilogue phase of negotiations. While the latest draft is still not available publicly, the public release specifies that EU citizens would be granted full control of their data, with the option to decide what information to share and with whom. The new EID would allow citizens to identify and authenticate themselves online via a European digital identity wallet without having to resort to commercial providers, as is the case today, a practice that raised trust, security, and privacy concerns. This all sounds great on the face, right? I think if it wasn't a government-run identity system, if it was fully not transparent, but fully decentralized, then I would say this makes sense, right? We get into a position where we have a decentralized identity and we can utilize that and supply that to whomever we wish, including governments, right? So I have complete autonomy and control over my data. I can provide that to the US government if I wish. I can provide that to the EU government if I wish, but it ultimately is up to my own personal preference on who I decide to provide that to. This is kind of an interesting in between where it sounds like to me the selling point is, hey, we're going to be the government, but we're going to come in, we're going to give you a digital ID, and that digital ID is going to allow you to basically take control of your data back, you know, in the form of something like Tiki, which we've had on the channel before. And then you will make sure we regulate, and you can basically decide on who you provide that data to. But it's still ultimately controlled by a centralized entity. So that's where I kind of like throw up a red flag. As Jonas Fredriksson, the senior director of the EU government affairs at Circle, has noted on Twitter, quote, the proposal would facilitate the emergence of new business models and opportunities in the digital economy as companies develop innovative products and services that rely on zero-knowledge proofs and EID solutions. Zero-knowledge proofs have recently been at the center of researchers' attention as a possible means to ensure regulatory compliance and privacy in digital currencies. The joint paper by San Francisco-based MENA Foundation, operator of the MENA protocol, German Hochhauser, Lamp Bank, and the Interdisciplinary Center for Security, Reliability, and Trust of the University of Luxembourg showed how exactly the zero proofs could be connected to Europe's EIDAS electronic identity system. So once again, you can have these zero proofs that are then tied into a current centralized system, the EIDAS, right? However, not everyone is convinced by that solution. Writing for Cointelegraph, Balazs Nemethi, the CEO of Very Labs and co-founder of KYC DAO, claimed that when proofs alone are insufficient and personal information sharing between the participants of a transaction is essential, relying only on off-chain solutions is advised. So there you go. What do we have? We have a weird dystopian future upon us. We have two paths to take. I always talk about these two paths. I just want to reiterate them. We have centralization and decentralization. Those are the two paths we can go down. We can use blockchain to do either one, right? The problem is as we centralize any sort of these controls, we can put ourselves as individuals in a compromised position, right? Specifically as it pertains to freedoms. And specifically in this case, the final freedom, which in the West at least would be financial freedom, right? Because at the end of the day, the factors in which they influence you to become a slave, right? Let's talk about the matrix slave, the 9-to-5 slave, right? The consumer slave. That is what I'm referring to. By that, I mean, basically you're enslaved by an economic system that forces you to constantly work for someone else in particular, pay someone else to supply whatever features you want, a nation state in general, and never actually get to a position where you are satisfied as an individual or financially free. That's kind of the slavery system I'm referring to here. You aren't going to be able to get out of that unless you are able to actually decentralize that, right? And put it into the hands of every individual, at least in my humble opinion. These are my thoughts. I'd like to listen to your thoughts and opinions on this in live chat and down in the comment section below. Now, let's talk about crypto mining news. CleanSpark appears to be doing good. I'm going to get some water here because I am getting that cotton mouth. So good. CleanSpark boosts computing power by 37% with thousands of new Bitmain rigs. The Bitcoin miner announced the purchase of 20,000 new Antminer S19j Pro Plus at a 25% discount, approximately $13.25 per terahash. That's cheap as hell, bro. Bitcoin miner CleanSpark is growing its mining capacity in the United States with the purchase of 20,000 new Antminer S19J Pro Plus units for $43.6 million. The acquisition is expected to boost the company's computing power by 37% and bring the total number of miners purchased during the bear market up to 46,500 units. According to a statement on February 16th, CleanSpark will pay $32.3 million for the machines after applying coupons at a 25% discount or a total price per terahash of approximately $13.25. The Pro Plus rigs are 22% more productive than their previous models and are planned to be delivered in batches between March and May. The company is leveraging market's lower rig prices to boost its mining capacity. While Bitcoin's price rebounds, it's showing 24,650 right now. According to data from Hashrate Index, the current price per terahash of ASICs of the same Bitcoin mining efficiency are currently at $15.09, well below the $90.72 seen 12 months ago. CleanSpark said the Antminer S19J Pro Plus model offers a better return on investment compared to the same ASIC generation machines. Quote, after they are fully operational, they are expected to add 2.44 exahash per second to CleanSpark's existing 6.6 exahash a second of Bitcoin mining computing power for a total of 9 exahash a second, constituting a 37% increase, noted the company. CleanSpark claims that the acquired models continue to be more attractive to its operations in the current market conditions. And I agree. Here's the thing. We're in a bear market. You have the best opportunity to purchase used machines or slightly used machines or even just a generation old machines that are pretty close in efficiency for less than the latest and greatest. And that will put you in a position to be able to survive during the bear market and then potentially thrive in a bull market. We're going to be talking about this more, of course, over on my locals page, as well as a new, basically I have a new workshop coming out here soon. It will be in March. I hope you guys will come check that out. We're going to be talking about this specific strategy as it pertains to what to buy and how to buy it, when to buy it, that sort of thing. But if you wanted a basic idea, CleanSpark is the kind of blueprint here. For example, CleanSpark disclosed in January a $16 million expansion in the site, which is forecasted to increase its hash rate by 2.2 exahash per second, with its total hash rate reaching as high as 8.7 exahash a second. The facility was acquired by the company in August last year before taking over Mawson Infrastructure Group's facility in Sandersville. After a tough year in 2022 with declining Bitcoin prices and high electricity costs, publicly listed mining companies saw a rise in mining production and hash rates in January, according to an analysis from Hashrate Index. CleanSpark boosted its Bitcoin mining production by 50% during the month, reaching a record monthly production of 697 Bitcoin. Its hash rate rose to 6.6 exahash a second from 6.2 exahash a second in December. Other public mining companies such as Core Scientific, Riot, Marathon, and Cypher have seen significant increases in Bitcoin production in the past month, helped by stable electricity prices and better weather conditions in the United States. Keeping in mind, of course, that we are moving into the spring and soon we'll be hitting the summer. And in the summer in Texas, the electricity rates will go up and it will be significant. So because Texas in general is running majority of hash rate in the United States now and continues to climb, the impact will be pretty hefty. If you're in a cold climate, I think you're at more of an advantage, especially with these new mining rigs. That is an inconvenient truth, being a Texan here, that we do have to bring up. The latest mining rigs, even if water cooled, are putting themselves into a couple of positions. One, they're getting hotter because basically more voltage, chips are closer together, more compact, And even if you add liquid cooling on top of that, you put yourself into a position where you have more basically points of failure. What I've seen in the industry here recently, especially in Texas, is moving away from something that is like liquid cooled and moving into immersion, meaning it's better to do what CleanSpark did here. And instead of buying like the liquid cooled versions of the S19s, they're just buying the S19J Pro Plus, and then they're putting that in. I mean, you could immerse them, right? Let me go ahead and make sure this is the correct one I'm thinking about, because that is the that's the 100 terahash one, right? Yeah, and then you can. So if you do an S19J Pro, the 96 terahash version right now, you can immersive cool it and overclock it to 170 terahash, right? So, you know, here's what's important that you need to understand. Because you can start pushing more voltage, and because the components are even closer together, there are massive advantages now for immersion cooling, right? We're talking about a 74 terahash increase from immersion cooling. And that's going to beat, and that's on an older generation model, right? You go to like the XP hybrid or something, you're doing 140 terahash, something like that, but you're liquid cooled, you have more points of failure. It's a big nightmare. You go immersion cooling, you buy some older hardware, you're in a much better position here. It's just, it makes sense. It's amazing, right? Let's talk about Team Red Miner version or miner releases for the week. Team Red Miner version 10.9 or 0.10.9. They're never going to have version 1, are they? This one's interesting. Excuse me. Hold on. It's been a long day, boys. This 9 to 5, getting up early. All right. GPU added support for the RDNA 3 7900 XT GPUs. So this is pretty awesome. If you want to go check it out, I don't have a 7900 GPU right now, unfortunately. Hopefully, maybe in the future I will. But that's not the big deal. The big deal is that they are adding a ton of FPGA support. And I've talked to the guys that are actually helping test this out. And I think we're going to start seeing Team Red Miner really move heavily into FPGAs. And we need it. Frankly, we need it. The more they develop for FPGAs, the more algos they develop for it, the likelihood that the more FPGAs are adopted within the mining market, the more the price will, or the more they can lower their dev fee, right? And bring it out to the general public. So seeing this is amazing. We got JC33s, JC35s, and JCC2LSs, as well as the E300 with the VU33P, the VU33P_CIV, the VU35P, which I've heard are in most of the Ospreys, and the VU9 parts, or 9P parts. They also added support for the Alveo U200 active cooled variant, which is kind of the latest, greatest that's been coming around. I love that Team Red Miner is moving into the FPGA space. I think that will give them a fantastic niche. If they can get those fees down to like 3%, I'd be happier, right? These 10% fees are quite hefty. And it still means that like you're incentivized to move towards some sort of custom developed bit stream. That being said, this is the position we're in. Now, another new release was Team Black Miner version 1.88. They fixed and improved auto tune kernel They fixed a DAG verification failure on high memory overclocks for the NVIDIA RTX cards. They fixed a crash at startup in dual mining mode if protocol was different in the two pools. They fixed an issue that caused rejected shares in Ethereum Classic. They fixed an issue with Ethereum Classic and ETH proof of work. Sometimes ZIL DAG was created but not needed. They fixed thread stats and pool stats in the API for the Raven mode. And they fixed NVIDIA only and AMD only flags. So you can go check that out if you like. They also have here an example of the Vertcoin plus Zilliqa on the CMP HX170s. So there you go. Moving on from there, we have a new changelog from Hive-On, which came out the day after Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Mini Z was added, the new version 2.0 C3, which fixed an issue with invalid shares. A new version of XM Rig. It looks like we gotta get the full Monero Ocean. Yeah, an update for Monero Ocean. And then they added Team Black Miner version 1.87. But unfortunately now, and then they added, I think on the previous one, Team Red Miner. So I'm really, really, really happy that Hive-On is getting into the game of updating everything. Here's the key that I think they need to add, right? They got Team Red Miner adding support for a bunch of FPGAs. Hey, guys at Hive, start adding in support for the FPGAs directly within Hive OS. This would be a game changer. This puts you ahead of everybody else in a market that is obtainable by your target market, right? And what do I mean by that? I know that I get it, Hive has been pushing for the ASIC side of things because you can get those big boys, get a couple big boy clients in, you're good to go. However, the niche audience that has been following Hive OS is the guys like myself and everybody else that is in that GPU market. We're a lot more inclined to move towards something like an FPGA than we are to an ASIC. If you get that support in, it's going to put you ahead of the curve. I promise. It's just going to make sense, especially with the mergers and acquisitions that are happening within the FPGA market right now that I'm aware of from behind the scenes. I foresee FPGAs coming to the forefront and actually being available to the general consumer in a manner that makes them extremely enticing to essentially retail customers. And I think it will make them more enticing to home miners than ASICs for noise reasons, for compatibility reasons, being able to use current rigs, all these sorts of things, right? That's going to be really where I think the market will move to. Now, Paul does say, just for everybody that's watching, MMPOS supports FPGAs. So you do have that option over there if you want to go over there. I was speaking specifically, of course, to Hive because we were talking about their changelog, but thank you for that update, Paul. Now, we have a new protocol client for 5.0.7. In the Ergo Protocol Reference Client 5.0.7, it contains the following PRs. The node now supports additional indexes to store information about all transactions, tokens, UTXOs, not just wallet related, and a lot of additional requests on top of them. So you can see the blockchain API methods. Additional indexes are switched off by default to turn them on. You can set the Ergo node extra index equals true in the config to check availability of additional data on a public node. You can check the new is Explorer flag in the info output. More code imported from bootstrapping with UTXO set snapshot branch and still refactoring most at this point. And then you got network time got from trusted NTP server is not used anymore. In particular, it led to header timestamp in future issues. So this one's kind of an interesting one. I mean, obviously that's a time server, but they're getting the network time server got from trusted NTP is not used anymore. So I don't know what went in its place, I guess is what I'm confused on. The hotfixes for mempool inconsistency and Sigma dependency, Ergo tree interpreter, and Ergo script compiler are updated to 5.0.5. You can get the release details for that over there for Sigma. And then cross-compilation of Ergo Wallet submodule with Scala 2.13 and Scala SBT image update for Docker build. So there's some new Docker build updates over there. If you want to check it out, it is down in the comment section below. Ironfish is something I've been keeping an eye on. Think SSL for crypto or for blockchain, or anyways, that's the best way to explain it. It's not exactly like that, but to kind of bring it down to layman's terms, something you may have heard of or, paid attention to in the past. That's the closest I could compare it. They do have a meme competition going on. So if you want to participate in that, it's linked down below. You can go check it out. I don't know if I'll post a meme, but I do really want a t-shirt. So I don't know if anybody from Ironfish is watching. If you send me a t-shirt, I'll wear it. Ironfish just sounds cool. Bad news on the exchange front. The latest information about the migration and restarting of the exchange. All assets which are on exchange right now will be automatically migrated to the new platform. If you need to withdraw, you can still do so until the 22nd of February. So it did say, hello traders, we would like to kindly ask you to stop deposits on their exchange. They'll be stopping deposits and withdrawals on the 22nd of February. And they hope it's a pretty long time for all mining operations and others to stop. And they'll be migrating data to a new database. After that date, they need to stop adding more and more info to actual database at some point. It says we will start the exchange this month and we'll resume trading. This information is pretty important because we will not credit anything that will come to wallets after this date. You must understand that we will operate with database of 54K members and migration of such databases is very hard. This is a centralized exchange. They're migrating databases, and it would be ill-advised. While they do say they will migrate the databases over and it will be successful, which it better be, because otherwise, well, down goes another exchange. I wouldn't trust it. If you have anything in Exbitron right now, I would go ahead and migrate it off, move it out before the 22nd. If you do have miners pointed towards the exchange right now, make sure that you get it to a specific wallet and are protecting yourself in that manner. So I just wanted to bring that out to make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on there. Now, more exchange news. Novo got a new listing on ZEGX, which I've never heard of this exchange before. And they have a pairing with Doge and USDT. So USDT pairing is nice to see. And of course, Doge, I guess, whatever. I mean, at that point, it is what it is. If you are looking for another exchange to, participate in with your Novo mined assets and all that, go check it out. There you go. That's it. And we have a new update from the Firo team. This is for the first week of February, which I guess we're a little bit behind on, but that's okay. They got a get balance issue. It says Peter found a bug. Get balance returns same output without the, star symbol there. With and without star. Okay. The balance now works, but spending is not possible yet. He's able to reproduce the issues on Reg test with a non-HD wallet. Coinbase, reindex, and rescan wallet bugs will appear. There you go. Atlantis Spark. 11 added several unit tests and writing small documentation for Atlantis Spark flow. And 11 continues with Spark DevNet Explorer and other parts of Atlantis Spark. Firo Mobile 11 is investigating lost funds and trying to restore funds to send to the user. He's trying to identify the reason for the issue. His theory is it seems skipping a lot of mint pool elements leaves some huge gap from one mint to another compared to the Qt Electron wallet. Further investigation is ongoing, so be careful with the Firo Mobile wallet. Electrum Firo, Gevorg, something like that, finished the build. There are some problems during the startup, X11, and we'll fix it soon. You'll try to add the build procedures with GitHub Actions. Firo Dex, a new version is being prepared. Ledger work on Ledger implementation is underway for Firo. And Electrum Firo to bump from version 4.1.5.1 to 4.1.5.2. Ruben to start talking to Geometry Labs for additional assistance with Light Wallet implementation. Let's get into the mining profitability for the week. Hope you guys are having a good evening. And things are looking pretty good. They are. They just are. Things are looking. I think we're about to stabilize. Personally, I think we're about to stabilize. We got about 2 months before I think we stabilize on both the GPU side and the ASIC side, as well as FPGA from an average cost. I think now we're seeing at least a 30% increase in mining or average electricity costs. So we're going to be updating what we judge this by to 13 cents a kilowatt hour. I'm using hashrate.no because it shows the most updated information. And we are going to be doing 13 cents a kilowatt hour now. Okay. So if you got a 4090, you still got Nexa there at the top with 63 cents in profit. You got the 4080 coming at 31 cents a day on DNX. DNX, by and large, kind of maintaining profitability for quite some time. The 6900 XT is actually profitable now on kaspa, which is quite intriguing. And I'm curious to see what the 7900 XT is now that we have support for that on the Team Red Miner side. And I believe the Team Red Miner side did include kaspa. So that's pretty exciting. I think there could be some potential from that side of the fence. And then from there, you got some interesting ones like the 1070 Ti on DNX because of the memory. You got the 3050 obviously being profitable because of the memory. If the prices came down on the 3050, it'd be more interesting. And you kind of lose off on profitability at the 1660 Super for DNX at this time, but it is all there. kaspa is starting to come up like on these latest RDNA 2 GPUs. RDNA 3 is probably going to look pretty good on these AMD GPUs as well, so you probably want to keep that in mind. ASIC miners as well coming in pretty hefty. The KA3 obviously bringing that, they're hitting the shelves, the mining shelves, right? And that's brought their projected profitability down because the price of the currency has gone way up. This has really hurt, of course, a lot of the older Kadena miners, and that is just the nature of the game, unfortunately, right? You still got the K7 in second at $24 or $24 a day or so on 2 miners. And the Antminer L7 on Doge at $11.86, probably closer to $20 once you start merge mining with Litecoin, thanks to the pumps on Litecoin. In fourth, you got the Antminer D7 at $15.84 a day. I believe there's some more Ant miners coming out down the line, or some more X11 miners coming out down the line here too, to pay attention to. From there, Goldshell HS3 doing $6 a day on Handshake. And from there, the S19 Pro is now profitable, I think. So this is still at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, but you are getting profitability on an S19 Pro now at $3.67 a day, or actually $1.13 a day on Bitcoin for the Binance pool. At 13 cents a kilowatt hour, that doesn't really quite look the same. We'll have to try to adjust this out later. It's not as profitable. So there you go. It is good to see, though, Bitcoin miners, like especially the S19, start to pop up here. From that perspective, though, let's take a look at Bitcoin hash rate. Obviously, it's up right now, 13% over the past 7 days. The hash rate is also up, and difficulty is also up. We're at 326 exahash a second. If we look at Ethereum Classic, it's at 129 terahash a second. It is up 6% over the past 7 days, and difficulties remaining relatively the same. ETH Proof of Work is up 10% almost over the past 7 days, and it just had a hash rate drop off, so maybe you want to look at that for some quick bucks. Ethereum Fair, something's broken with it. Be careful on that one. Let's look at... Ooh, oh, yeah. Let's go Flux. Flux up 15% over the past 7 days. And sitting at 5.43 mega solutions is second with a nice drop off on difficulty. This might be something you guys want to look at. It looks like somebody on Cruxpool saw this though, so be careful. You got the difficulty way down right now. Hash rate starting to come up, but the price is way up too. Remember, the halving just happened too, so there's a lot going on there. Take a look at Ergo, not Ergon, Ergo. Ergo, up 1% over the past 7 days, remaining pretty stagnant even on hash rate. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Kaspa is right behind it here. It's up 11%, almost 12% over the past 7 days, sitting at 283 terahash a second, 353 on the network hash rate. If we take a look at the good old Raven coin, we're up 10% over the past 7 days. And it has dropped off in hash rate a little bit over the past week, down about a terahash. Something along those lines. Some of the more interesting ones, right? DNX that we've been taking a look at is down 32% over the past 7 days. Something really weird is going on with their difficulty too that I wanted to talk to you guys about. I got to do more research on this. Conflux did have a big skyrocket. I was going to tell you guys the reason why is they had a partnership with China. Hong Kong. So let me see if I can find this for you guys. The link is actually in the YouTube channel, but I didn't want to play it. But basically, I was going to tell you guys the reason. Let me pull it up. I think it's this one. Yeah, so Conflux, China Telecom and Conflux Network are going to be piloting a blockchain-enabled SIM card in Hong Kong. This is really like what's driving that. So you probably want to pay attention to this. That's going to wrap it up for the day. Remember, super chats are never required. Always appreciate first to be answered if you have a question here really quickly. And other than that, tag Ask Some of Tech. I'll answer some questions. I'm going to go play some video games over on Locals. So I'll get you guys the link to that. ET, thanks for stopping by and thanks for the donations. Paul, thanks for becoming a member. And thanks for the $19.99 super chat. Exclamation point. Is DNX usage are real? Can they grow? I haven't fully tested it. They have posted their proofs. You can go review them. I have to get additional. Technically, yes, for their SAT proofs, it does look like it is the use case that they have proposed is real and it is working and it is available for you to download and run in your own test environment. So, yeah. I have not tested it personally yet, and I'll try to get to that, when I can. All right. For the rest of the questions, we're going to head on over to Locals. I'll get you guys that link right now. I'm going to hit go live over there, but I won't be live for just a little bit while I take a little bit of time. Because you always got to take a little time to use the restroom and such. So let me get you guys this link. And if you have any more questions, want to just come hang out, come on over there. I'll probably be playing a little bit of Call of Duty for an hour or so, maybe a couple hours. And thanks everybody for all the support and continuing to be over here. I hope to see you again. I'll see you next Tuesday. Next Linux guide will probably be next weekend. This week we already have other stuff coming out. by the way.